Fasten your seatbelt. We're taking you on a Grand Prix tour of the Disney Pixar Cars Trilogy. Ready, set, go! Cars is a Pixar classic with a list of Easter eggs and hidden details a mile long. Take a look at some of our favorites and see what you missed the first time around. Lightning McQueen, voiced by Owen Wilson, is the rookie racing extraordinaire on the road to greatness. First stop, the Piston Cup. Take a look at Lightning in the opening race. Like the rest of him, Lightning McQueen's back end is plastered with his sponsor Rusty's branding, including a yellow stripe which reads Medicated Bumper Ointment. But did you know that the bumper stripe itself has extra significance? Since this is Lightning's first Piston Cup race, it's tradition for racers to display a yellow rookie stripe on their rear-end bumpers. Looks like the Rusty's team took advantage of the situation. And there's more to see at the Piston Cup. See if you can spot car number 84. It's white with the Apple logo. This is a cool little Easter egg because the late Steve Jobs, co-founder, chief executive, and chairman of Apple Computer, previously owned Pixar. And the car's number? Another hidden detail. Apple released the Macintosh, the first widely sold personal computer, which revolutionized Apple as a company in what year? 1984, of course. But check out who else is on the track. McQueen's biggest competitor is a car called Chick Hicks, played by Michael Keaton. He's a stock car who doesn't care who he has to run over on his way to the top. Feeling the heat from Lightning, Chick creates a dangerous pile-up in the hopes of wrecking McQueen's chances of a win. Dodging all the wreckage, Lightning bounces off an overturned car's tires and takes to the skies. In mid-air, he flashes his lucky sticker at his fans, but more interestingly, he sticks out his tongue. This is the unmistakable trademark of basketball great Michael Jordan. When he stuck his tongue out on the basketball court, you knew he meant business. Believe it or not, he's not the only one the artists make a reference to with Lightning's tongue. Every now and then, Lightning McQueen's tongue pops out when he's thinking really hard, a characteristic shared with none other than writer-director John Lasseter, and his trait incorporated into the movie by some animators who wanted to poke a little fun at him. Here's another fun Lasseter-inspired fact. Did you know that it was John Lasseter's idea to put the eyes into the characters up on the windshield instead of in the car's headlights, like was done in most cartoons? He and the Pixar animators decided this choice made the characters more expressive. This isn't the first time Disney used this design, though. It was largely influenced by the Disney cartoon Susie the Little Blue Coupe, which just so happens to be one of Lasseter's favorites. Don't blink or you might just miss this next Easter egg. During the montage when Mac is driving Lightning McQueen to California, keep an eye on the phone lines. Did you catch him? As the camera zooms along, you can briefly see and hear the birds from the Pixar short for The Birds. Listen to this.
Get your kicks on Route 66.
Singer-songwriter John Mayer covered this classic song Route 66 in the closing credits. But did you know the production wanted to use a little-known version of the song by legendary rock and roll pioneer Chuck Berry? Berry's record company didn't even realize his version of the song existed, and now it's got a second life thanks to the montage when Lightning McQueen gets his Radiator Springs makeover. The Rusty's brothers, Rusty and Dusty, sure seem to be larger-than-life characters, but in fact their voices are performed by real-life brothers, Tom and Ray Magliosi, who hosted a Radio Hall of Fame talk show called Car Talk. The catchphrase, "Don't drive like my brother," was first made popular on their show. On his way to Los Angeles, Lightning accidentally gets detoured to the sleepy town of Radiator Springs in a chase that leads him to tearing up the town's road. When he finally gets caught, the sheriff says, "Boy, you're in a heap of trouble." This is the signature line from Dodge commercials featuring actor Joe Higgins as the sheriff, which aired in the early 1970s.
You're in a lot of trouble, boy.
And there's another detail about the sheriff you might have missed. Did you notice the strange metal rods poking out from under the sheriff's car? They aren't just some character flourish, they actually fulfill a function. They're called curb detectors, and back in the 40s and 50s, these springy devices would make a scraping sound to let you know you were parking a proper distance from the curb. Since the sheriff is a 1949 Mercury, it makes sense to see this outdated but authentic feature on the police cruiser. Another fun little fact about the detectors, they were also called curb feelers, which happens to be the name of a shop in the Radiator Springs flashback sequence. Like the ill-fated town, the feelers went out of fashion in the 60s, but keep your eyes on the road. You never know when you might find a classic car with the feature installed for old time's sake. And speaking of keeping your eye on things, did you catch this? Luigi is the '59 Fiat 500 who runs the tire shop, Luigi's Casa della Tires in Radiator Springs. A fan of the European circuit, he dreams one day of servicing Ferraris. He's such a fan, in fact, that his license plate holds a hidden secret. The numbers read 445-108. No, that isn't a model of Ferrari. It's even more obscure than that. The numbers are actually the latitude and longitude for the main Ferrari factory in Modena, Italy. And there's another Radiator Springs resident with his own secrets. Perhaps the most influential citizen of Radiator Springs is Doc Hudson, better known by racing fans as the fabulous Hudson Hornet. He's voiced by acting legend and racing aficionado Paul Newman. In Doc's heyday, he won 2 national championships, but eventually left racing after a dangerous crash. This detail isn't based on Newman, but on the real-life NASCAR pioneer Herb Thomas, who drove Hudson Hornets to 2 national titles and also quit racing after dangerous crashes. But we're not ready to leave Radiator Springs yet. Did you notice the mountain range visible behind Radiator Springs? It looks like the back ends of Cadillacs sticking out of the ground. In the movie, this is called Cadillac Range. But can you believe this is inspired by a real place? It's based on an actual landmark known as Cadillac Ranch, an installation of half-buried, nose-down Cadillacs near Amarillo, Texas. Also, take a look at the Cozy Cone Motel. Its design is based on the famous Wigwam motels along Route 66 in Holbrook, Arizona and Rialto, California. These motels featured individual cabins shaped like teepees, and even the name is a hidden reference. Cozy Cone was inspired by the Cozy Dog Drive-In located in Springfield, Illinois, which claims to be the birthplace of the corn dog. Of course, you can't talk about the Cozy Cone in Radiator Springs without talking about its owner, Sally Carrera. Sally is the Porsche 911 Carrera, who catches Lightning's eye. Though she now runs the Cozy Cone, back in her earlier California days she was a lawyer, and the details of her character development actually run even deeper. Her profession as an attorney is a reference to Portia, a nickname for female lawyers, which comes from a character in William Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. Portia, Portia. Get it? If you like that reference, you're gonna love the next one. If you're a fan of movies, then you might know about the Wilhelm scream. It's a sound effect from the Warner Brothers library that has famously popped up in everything from Star Wars to Beauty and the Beast since its first recording for the 1951 movie Distant Drums. You probably even heard it if you don't know you have. During Lightning's first Dinoco fantasy, he fantasizes about starring in a big-budget action film, Lightning Storm. The Wilhelm scream can be heard when the first car on the freeway on-ramp disintegrates. If you're a true Pixar fan, this isn't the first time you've seen the Dinoco brand either. But do you remember where? The Dinoco brand was actually first seen in Toy Story as the brand at the gas station where Woody and Buzz get separated from Andy and have their famous confrontation. Other memorable Pixar references make appearances in Cars too. And in the case of the end credits, it's hilariously obvious. During the end credits, the characters head to the local drive-in. The movies they watch are car versions of Pixar films, Toy Story, Monsters, Inc., and A Bug's Life. Did you know that Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Billy Crystal, John Goodman, and Dave Foley were all brought back to reprise their roles with Cars doctored dialogue? Mac, voiced by John Ratzenberger, says that the car versions of the characters Ham, Yeti, and P.T. Flea must have been played by one great actor. They were, of course, all voiced by Ratzenberger himself. He also pokes a little fun at Pixar, though. When Mac realizes they use the same actor in all the movies, he complains, "What kind of cut-rate production is this?" You're going to want to pay close attention in order to spot this next Easter egg. You might already know about the significance of A113 in Pixar movies, but just in case you don't, here's a quick little refresher. A113 is a callback to the animation room at California Institute of the Arts, where many Pixar animators studied. And they just love to find fun opportunities to incorporate the number in their work. For example, look at the face of the train that Lightning outruns. Emblazoned on each cheek is the train's number, A113. And that's not the only place you'll see it. Every Cars fan has a special place in their heart for Lightning's lovable bestest buddy and tow truck, Mater, voiced by comedian Larry the Cable Guy. Take a close look at the back right corner of his bumper. There, under all the rust and grime, you'll see Mater's license plate with, you guessed it, the number A113. Did you know that Mater's not the only character voiced by a famous stand-up comedian? And one with a hidden detail, too. Fillmore, the groovy, organic, fuel-pushing Volkswagen bus, is voiced by the late legendary comedian George Carlin. And if you listen closely to Fillmore's voice, you'll hear that Carlin is performing an homage to a character he used to play early in his comedy career, Al Sleet, the hippy-dippy weatherman who would show up in places like The Ed Sullivan Show.
Al Sleet here, you hippy-dippy weatherman.
But there's more car details to come. Before leaving for the big race at Los Angeles International Speedway, McQueen decides to support all the local businesses in Radiator Springs. At Sarge's military surplus store, he buys night vision goggles, which makes sense when you remember that as a race car, Lightning doesn't have real functioning headlights, a fact that led to his nickname, Stickers. The goggles will help him travel safely on dark roads and anywhere else that isn't a well-lit racetrack. Thanks to Luigi and his companion Guido, there are moments in the movie where Italian is spoken, but for some reason without subtitles. Did you ever wonder what they're saying? During the final race, Guido yells at Chick's pit crew in Italian, "Who do you think you're talking to? Who are you talking to?" Later, when Luigi faints at the sight of a Ferrari and 2 Maseratis in his shop, the Ferrari says to Guido, "I hope your friend recovers. I was told that you're fantastic." And did you know who voiced the Ferrari? It was former Formula One racer Michael Schumacher, who isn't Italian at all but German. He did win 5 world championships for the Scuderia Ferrari racing team though, which basically made him an honorary Italian. Make sure you subscribe to Movie Logic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs. Lightning McQueen is back, and this time he's racing around the world with his best friend Mater in tow in Pixar's Cars 2. Naturally, there are a ton of hidden details and Easter eggs along the way, so let's rev those engines. Cars 2 is a bit of a one-off for the series, though we're along for the ride as Lightning competes in the World Grand Prix. It's Mater who's in the driver's seat. While Lightning is on the track, Mater stumbles upon an evil scheme that may just put his bestest buddy's life in jeopardy, and it's up to him and his new secret agent friends to crack the case. One such friend is Finn McMissile, voiced by Screen veteran Sir Michael Caine. Did you know that McMissile is a hybrid of famous vehicles used by secret agents in classic spy movies and TV shows? His shape was inspired by parts of a Volvo P1800, a BMW 507, as well as James Bond's preferred ride, the Aston Martin DB5. Needless to say, Finn McMissile has a license to spy. Here's another interesting feature of the car. Take a look at the license plate. If you thought I was going to say that his license plate reads A113, the in-joke of Pixar animators who learned their trade in the classroom A113 at the California Institute of the Arts, well, you'd be wrong. Finn McMissile's license plate reads 314 FMCM. March 14th just so happens to be Michael Caine's birthday. As for FMCM, it obviously stands for Finn McMissile. What is it with spies in movies always flaunting their identities like celebrities? Aren't they supposed to be masters of disguise? McMissile has been in the spy game a long time. Though he's a fine-oiled machine in tip-top condition, pay close attention to one piece of equipment he has at his disposal. In the opening scene, he uses a spy camera to get a better look at the action on the ocean rig. Did you notice his heads-up display only utilizes simple vector graphics? Top spy gear? Yeah, sure. Maybe for the 60s, he could probably use an upgrade. There's another car in the movie that receives an upgrade, Lightning McQueen. In preparation for the World Grand Prix, McQueen loses the stickers in favor of real operating headlights. The World Grand Prix has Lightning and Mater globetrotting to Tokyo, Japan, Porto Corsa, Italy, and London, England. Like most Pixar movies, Cars 2 was also an international affair, and based on where the film was released, one scene in particular would receive a considerable tune-up. During the cocktail party, Lightning schmoozes with 2 other professional race cars. Lightning calls one of them Lewis. Lewis is voiced by the British 7-time Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton. His fellow pro driver in the scene, however, could be voiced by one of 3 different Formula One drivers, depending on where you see the movie. In Spain, Lewis is joined by Fernando Alonso. In Russia, it's Vitaly Petrov. And in Germany, Sebastian Vettel plays Sebastian Schnell. Schnell means quickly in German. And in the US, his rival is credited as Jeff Gorvet, who is of course played by NASCAR legend Jeff Gordon. Another interesting detail regarding Jeff Gorvet's racing number was originally supposed to be 3. In the end, it just made sense to change the number to 24. Racing fans know that 24 is Jeff Gordon's real-life number, but they also know that the number 3 has special significance as well. Dale Earnhardt drove with the number 3 on his Chevrolet stock car in the NASCAR circuit from 1975 to 2001. He was a legend in the sport, earning no less than 3 nicknames because of his aggressive style of driving: the Intimidator, the Man in Black, and Ironhead. In 2001, Earnhardt died in a crash that happened on the last lap of the Daytona 500. That same year after the accident, he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Needless to say, it was probably in the best interest of the filmmakers to leave the number 3 alone. Cameos in Cars 2 don't just come from the racing world. Pay close attention to the boat Finn McMissile hitches a ride on at the beginning of the movie. This is no ordinary boat, but Pixar's replica of the boat Northwestern, which is a name that should be on the radar of reality TV fans. The Discovery Channel follows the dangerous voyages of the Northwestern and its crab fisherman crew on the hit show The Deadliest Catch. Did you also happen to catch the letter on the boat's nose? Bow? Pun intended, by the way. SH are the initials for Sig Hansen. Northwestern's captain on Discovery's series, and it just so happens it's his voice you're hearing as the Northwestern as well. His character's name? Krabby. Turns out he's not the only crabby character in Cars 2. Tensions rise for Lightning as his best buddy Mater's simple ways clash with the sophisticated atmosphere of the Grand Prix. Mater even embarrasses him in front of the host of the event, Miles Axelrod, voiced by stand-up comedian, actor, and activist Eddie Izzard. Did you know that the name Miles Axelrod actually came from one of Eddie Izzard's stand-up shows? Not just any show, but from his comedy special Live from Wembley Stadium. In the set, he uses the name Miles Axelrod as a humorous bit about the invention of the wheel. And embarrassing guest is the least of the problems surrounding the tournament. One of the functions of the World Grand Prix is to promote alternate fuel All in All. But a secret faction known as the Lemons plan to undermine the tournament by making All in All into a dangerous weapon. Check out the damage the Lemons wreak on the racers during the race in Porto Corsa, Italy. Using electromagnetic pulse emitter disguised as a camera, they cause a pileup on the track. Only 2 cars avoid being terribly damaged. Of course, those 2 cars just so happen to be Lewis Hamilton and Jeff Gorvette. The Lemons are so shrouded in secrecy even their boss hides his true identity. Take a look at the evil mastermind's broadcast from a secret garage. He uses a voice modulator and every bit of his exterior is completely covered. But there's still one interesting detail to pull from this shot, especially for Brit mechanics. Did you see the name of the auto parts box? British Wheeland is a play on the name British Leyland, which was a motor company based in the United Kingdom that went belly up after 7 years in the biz. The company was notorious for building unreliable cars, which of course are commonly referred to as lemons. This makes a ton of sense when looking at the different models of cars within the ranks of the infamous order. Grem is an AMC Gremlin, Acer an AMC Pacer, Vladimir Trunkov is a ZAZ Zaporozhets, and Professor Z is a Yugo, all cars famous for breaking down in their time. If that's not enough, Pixar decides to hit us over the head with the symbolism. Take a look at the table at their meeting. The centerpieces are all literal pyramids of lemons. Okay, we get it, Pixar. Eesh. Food and automobiles merge in a few other fascinating ways. Remember the Wheelwell Motel from the first movie? It's been restored to its former glory by Cars 2, and the place is jumping when Lightning makes his triumphant return after winning his 4th Piston Cup. During McQueen's romantic dinner with Sally, Mater crashes their date by acting as their waiter. Keep an eye on the bar as he goes in to ask Guido to prepare their usual. Did you see that oil can on the far right? The label says Crown Oil, which is a funny little wink at the popular Canadian blended whiskey, Crown Royal. From French Canadian to Paris, France. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Keep your eyes peeled in the sequence when Mater joins Finn and Holly in Paris to track down a black market parts dealer. In the montage of the city, Mater drives by a Michelin star-rated restaurant that should look strangely familiar to Pixar fans. Do you remember the name of the restaurant in Pixar's 2007 hit Ratatouille? Gusteau's has been modified to fit the Cars universe. Here it's called Gastos. Gas Toes. Get it? Ha! Come to think of it, Michelin works here too. The restaurant again shows up in the postcard for Paris in front of the Eiffel Tower during the end credits. Hope you saved room for some pizza. This is Pixar after all, and what would a Pixar movie be without a special appearance from our favorite delivery service, the Pizza Planet truck from Toy Story? This time around, we're getting a double helping. If you caught the truck's first appearance, you may just be faster than Mater with a pair of rockets. Back at the Wheelwell Motel, after Mater leaves McQueen and Sally's table, watch the TV over the bar. The split second you see it. The Pizza Planet truck is guest star on a talk show just before the Mel Dorado show. As for the second sighting, I kinda already gave you a hint, but pay attention to the spectators during the final race in Radiator Springs. Once Mater gets his rockets from Finn and Sally, watch closely after he tows Otis into Ramon's body shop. He zings right past the Pizza Planet truck, who just so happens to be parked right next to 2 more familiar cars, Van and Minnie, the lost tourists from the first film, voiced by character actors Richard Kind and Edie McClurg. Sometimes there's nothing like familiar faces. How about a familiar sound? There's one sound we just can't get enough of around here, and that's the famous Wilhelm scream from 1951's Distant Drums. This time it pops up in the pub, Ye Left Turn in London. It's a little drowned out, but it can be heard after Lemons, Grem, and Acer drop in, courtesy of some fancy flying by Holly Shiftwell. The 2 careen into the bar, spilling everyone's drinks. From outside the establishment, as a tire comes bouncing out of the pub, Wilhelm can be heard over the commotion. But wait, there's something else of interest in the pub. Of course, it's no secret Pixar likes to inject references to earlier movies in their latest releases, but did you know that sometimes they'll add a little Easter egg for a movie that hasn't even been released yet? After the lemons crash into the bar, there's a shot of beer pints comically floating into the air before dropping and spilling all over the disgruntled customers. When they do, a tapestry is revealed high on the wall in the background. Sure, it has cars on it, but it's also Celtic in style. This is the filmmaker's little secret plug for the then upcoming Pixar release, Brave. It depicts Princess Merida and her family only as cars, but in the same position as the tapestry that would later show up in the 2012 release. So what are some other Pixar movie references in Cars 2? First, take a look at this scene with Mater and Lightning after their big day together in Radiator Springs. They drive past the Radiator Springs Drive-In Theater, which you might remember from the post-credit sequence in the original Cars. But look at what's playing. The Cars version of The Incredibles, the Incredimobiles. What's more Incredimobile than an explosive fight sequence? The next Pixar movie reference can be found in the fighting scene during the Tokyo race. Finn McMissile gets a leg up, a tire up on his adversaries, literally leaping out of their hold, causing one lemon to crash into another, whose flamethrower ignites, sending them both flying. Have you caught the reference yet? Here's a hint. It's the sign that caught Acer. Those chopsticks and nut are a fun little play on the sign from the exclusive sushi restaurant in Monsters, Inc., Harryhausen's. Tokyo is the place to be for hidden secrets. This next one is a super hard find. During the travel montage after Lightning and Mater's plane lands in Tokyo, look at the second shot of the city. Pause if you gotta. Check out the pink cube with the character in the white circle. It's a car version of Lotso Huggin' Bear from Toy Story 3. Talk about an indication of things at the World Grand Prix not always being what they seem. Like this old clunker who follows Mater into the bathroom. That disguised Detroit muscle car is Rod Torque Redline, voiced by the debonair Bruce Campbell, known by horror fans everywhere as the overconfident, wisecracking Ash Williams from the Evil Dead series. How can you tell Torque's from Detroit? Take a look at his license plate, which reads A113. Haha, no it doesn't. You're still on the lookout for that, aren't you? No, Redline's license plate is from Michigan, and Detroit is considered the home of the American automotive manufacturers. In fact, Rod Redline was inspired by two American cars, the Dodge Challenger and the Ford Mustang. Did you know that Bruce Campbell hails from Birmingham, Michigan? That's just about half an hour outside Detroit. Now back to that license plate. The characters on the plate read M1911A1. Gun enthusiasts will recognize that as a model number for a Colt 45 service pistol, which soldiers in the U.S. Armed Forces used as a standard-issue sidearm from 1911 to 1985. The A1 classification of the weapon was adopted in 1924. I guess this means Rod Redline's got some years and mileage on him. Holly Shiftwell, voiced by Emily Mortimer, just so happens to be a newer model. This diagnostic specialist turned field agent was supposed to rendezvous with Redline, but an Operation Snafu caused her to mistake Mater as her secret American contact. Finn McMissile said it to her best, "You kids get all the good hardware, and Holly is all state-of-the-art. We've already established that she can fly." Unlike McMissile, her heads-up display is holographic. Plus, she has a hidden camera and a vast array of secret weapons. She also is responsible for the disguise technology that allows Mater to infiltrate the Lemon's secret meeting incognito. She can even hack into a city's traffic grid and reprogram the stoplights. And hey, wait a minute, you notice something familiar about that? Holly might be up to some old tricks after all. Reprogramming lights was part of Sir Michael Caine's game when he portrayed Charlie Croker, a professional thief whose team reprogrammed the city's traffic lights during a gold heist in the 1969 movie The Italian Job. That movie's also famous for its cars, specifically its Mini Cooper car chase. Another member of the British intelligence team includes the spy jet, Sidley. Listen to Sidley's voice. Whether you know it or not, you've heard that voice before. In fact, it's the same voice that started the whole movie. Both Sidley and Leland Turbo, the spy from the communique at the beginning of the film, are voiced by actor Jason Isaacs. Not familiar with the name? Does Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter ring a bell? There are a couple of other interesting details involving Sidley. Take a look at the British intelligence seal on the front of the interior cabin. It reads Honor Animus Vis Ecorum, which is Latin for honor, spirit, horsepower. Yep, that's fitting for the Cars universe. Oh, and one more thing. Did you happen to catch the number on Sidley's fin? That's right, it's A113. No, really, we mean it this time. In fact, A113 shows up in the cabin as well as part of the image catalog number for the mysterious mastermind behind the lemons. Of course, if you've seen our video for the first Cars movie, then you know that A113 was with us all along on the rusty old license plate attached to our favoriteest tow truck in the whole wide world, Tow-Mater. Before there was A113, there were secret Mickeys, designs in the likeness of Mickey Mouse hidden by Disney animators in their cartoons, features, even Disney park rides. Did you know there's a hidden Mickey in Cars 2? When Lightning and his gang take a pit stop at Luigi's home village on their way to Porto Corsa, we get to meet Luigi's uncle Topolino, the owner of Topolino's Tires. So where's the hidden Mickey? It's right there on that awning. And in the name Topolino, in Italian, Topolino means baby mouse, and Italians refer to Mickey Mouse as Topolino. By the way, Uncle Topolino and Mama Topolino are played by real-life husband and wife Franco Nero and Vanessa Redgrave. Both are revered performers in their own right. Did you know that Franco Nero was in the original Django? His credits include such actioners as Force 10 from Navarone with Robert Shaw and Harrison Ford, Die Hard 2 with Bruce Willis, and more recently John Wick Chapter 2 with Keanu Reeves. Dame Vanessa Redgrave is no slouch either, with a filmography that includes Antonioni's Blow Up, Deep Impact, and Mission Impossible. Some more fun secrets can be found in the little Italian village. Take a look at the statue in the fountain in the middle of town. It's holding a trident, but not just any trident, the Maserati logo trident. Also, check out the church facade. Just above the doors is a design in the shape of an iconic Alfa Romeo grille. Talk about automotive works of art. Make sure you subscribe to Movielogic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs. Pixar's Cars 3 is a return to form for the series filled with high-octane action, hilarity, and all the things that tug at your heartstrings. Naturally, it's hitched with a truckload of hidden secrets and Easter eggs, so let's hit the road. When we catch up with Lightning McQueen, he and his contemporaries are enjoying their friendly ebbs and flows on the circuits. But all they've built gets threatened when the newer state-of-the-art racers begin to steal their thunder. One rookie in particular, Jackson Storm, voiced by Armie Hammer, really gets under Lightning's hood. Lightning must come to terms with the fact that he's not the latest and greatest thing on the track, a tale as old as time, but particularly personal for Cars 3's racing consultant, NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon. Jeff was able to advise not just on the technical aspects of racing in Cars 3, but also the emotional journey of shifting from hotshot rookie to seasoned vet. You might remember Jeff as the voice of Crow Car Jeff Gorvat from Cars 2, a movie that took the series beyond the scope of the original Cars, adding a globe-trotting espionage plot to the international race at the center of the movie. Cars 2, for all intents and purposes, was a success, especially at the box office. But for a Pixar film, critical and audience reactions were mixed. It was believed at the time that with the release of Cars 3, Pixar wanted audiences to forget all about Cars 2. But did you know there actually are details in Cars 3 that directly relate to its predecessor? For instance, Lightning McQueen has his headlights, a detail he had installed in Cars 2 in preparation for the night driving during the World Grand Prix. Also, take a look at the scene where Lightning has a meeting with his racing club's new owner, Sterling. We'll get to Sterling in a bit, but there's a framed picture on the wall behind Sterling's desk, on the left next to the golden car statue. If you zoom in and squint, you can make out the face of Miles Axelrod, the nefarious host of the World Grand Prix from Cars 2. Also, remember Mater's little detour to Paris in Cars 2? During the montage, he passed by two cars kissing on a bridge. Their names are John and Nancy, and they can be seen on Lightning's TV in Cars 3. Yep, still going at it. Jeff Gorvat, of course, makes another appearance, this time at the final race in Cars 3, the Florida 500. But the most telling detail that exists in both films is the Doc Hudson Racing Museum. In Cars 2, it's implied that Doc is no longer living. In fact, the filmmakers only gave a paltry 37 seconds of the movie's runtime to address it. But in Cars 3, Doc's influence is given a second life, as Lightning gets back to basics in preparation for the Florida 500. Doc appears to Lightning in a series of flashbacks, and his legacy looms heavy over McQueen after a terrible crash on the track puts Lightning out of commission for months. Doc, of course, was voiced by screen legend Paul Newman, who reprises his role in Cars 3. But wait, how can that be? Newman passed away in 2008, 3 years before Cars 2 was even released. Well, it just so happened that at the time of his recording for the original Cars, Newman remained at the microphone to share his own experiences and racing stories with director John Lasseter. These conversations gave the editors of Cars 3 enough content to have Paul Newman reprise his role as the Hudson Hornet. Did you know Paul Newman also voiced Doc in Cars the video game? Audio from that project also wound up in Cars 3. Take this flashback scene for instance, where he's balancing a stack of objects on his hood ornament. He says, "You might want to take notes on this one." In the game, Doc can be heard saying that same line when passing another car in a race. A Doc line from the video game even found its way into one of the trailers for Cars 3. In the opening seconds, Doc can be heard saying, "Get ready for what's coming." Paul Newman isn't the only voice to receive the posthumous treatment. Tom Magliozzi, the voice of Rusty, gave his last bow in 2014. He and real-life brother Ray play the owners of Lightning's racing club, Rusty and Dusty. Instead of hiring a sound-alike to fill Tom's role, the filmmakers decided to go into the archives of Car Talk, the long-running radio show Tom and Ray shared for over 3 decades. They were able to find lines in old episodes of the show that served the character of Rusty in the movie. It seems Rusty and Dusty see the writing on the wall. They know they're not getting any younger, so they decide to sell the Rusty's brand over to Mr. Sterling Burnish, voiced by Nathan Fillion. Pixar fans might recognize his dulcet baritone voice, but from where? Fillion voiced Alpha Jock Johnny in Monsters University. His character also shares another interesting coincidence with the Monsters universe. Sterling is known as the Mud Flap King of the Eastern Seaboard. Fans of Monsters Inc. will remember that Sully and Mike Wazowski scare along the Eastern Seaboard near the beginning of the movie. Maybe in some alternate universe, monster trucks show up to scare the mufflers off little coops, but I digress. Sterling takes over the reins at Rusty's, and though he's built a state-of-the-art training center, his real interests lie in merchandising and capitalizing on the likenesses of his new acquisition, Lightning McQueen. Did you know that Nathan Fillion was featured as another rich investor who owned a mudflap company in the animated series Gravity Falls? His name, Preston Northwest. Fillion must know a heck of a lot about mudflaps by now, both east and northwest. Anyway, Lightning isn't ready to call it quits, only to stand by and watch as his face gets muddied on the backsides of other vehicles. So he makes a deal with Sterling: one more race. If he loses, he retires and sells merchandise for Sterling. If he wins, he gets to choose when it's time to retire. Sterling, for his part, agrees to the deal. He must really be a sucker for a comeback story. Turns out he's also a sucker for a Cinderella story too. Remember the gold car on the wall behind his desk from earlier? Just to the right of it, you'll find a model of Cinderella's pumpkin carriage on display. There's one more Easter egg on display with regard to Sterling's office. As Lightning waits outside, look at the frosted glass doors. On the right is Sterling's name and title, on the left, A113, the unmistakable reference and in-joke for any Pixar animator who spent time learning their craft in classroom A113 at the California Institute of the Arts. Did you know that A113 exists in another place where it cannot be found on screen? I sound like a crazy person, don't I? Take a look at Shannon Spokes, voiced by real-life sports reporter and correspondent Shannon Spake. Her press credentials include a barcode along with the number A113, but viewers wouldn't know this unless they looked her up online and bought her toys. That's because in the movie we only see Spokes' left side. Her credentials are on her right. A113, of course, can also be found on Mater's license plate. And as we've seen in Cars 2, license plates are a great place to find other hidden secrets as well. So, whose license plate should we pay attention to here? How about Cruz Ramirez, Sterling's top trainer assigned to help bring Lightning up to speed? Cruz's license plate reads C0106A, which doesn't seem to mean much. Unlike, say, Finn McMissile's license plate from Cars 2, the letters and numbers are all mixed together. Well, actually, the C and the A go together, sandwiching the numbers. C stands for Cristela and A stands for Alonzo, the first and last names of the comedian and actor who voices Cruz Ramirez. As for the numbers, Cristela was born on January 6th, just in case you wanted to get her something. Also, her plate is from Texas, just like Cristela. Lightning doesn't take well to Cruz's brand of training, preferring instead to get his tires dirty over her aerobics regimens and treadmills. Speaking of treadmills, the first time we meet Cruz, she's training some up-and-coming racers and using custom tactics to make each racer better. One of the millennial cars feels homesick, so she puts an image of his hometown on the screen. Do you recognize it? It's Santa Cecilia, the town where Coco takes place. Coco came out just a few months after Cars 3, making this another one of Pixar's preview plug Easter eggs. Real quick, there's another Coco Easter egg to be found in Cars 3, inside the Cotton Pin Bar and Grill in Thomasville. Turn your attention to the stage. Behind the local band, you'll see an ivory white guitar hanging on the wall. It belongs to Ernesto de la Cruz from Coco. By the way, that bluesy tune the band is playing is called Glory Days, performed by Andra Day. Did you know that this is a cover song? Glory Days was first made famous back in, well, the glory days of 1984 by the boss, Bruce Springsteen, off his Grammy Hall of Fame album Born in the USA, an album critics consider one of the best ever made. We'll work our way back to Thomasville again soon, but first, let's throw her in reverse and head to Fireball Beach. Have a listen to the mobile treadmill Cruz brings with her to Lightning's first real-world training session. session. The boot up should sound familiar, particularly if you ever used an Apple computer product. Pixar also used that same sound in the movie WALL-E to signal when the adorable compactor robot was fully charged. To Cruz's credit, she does try to accommodate McQueen and his training style, but McQueen winds up losing a whole day having to teach her the basics of driving on sand. At one point, she interrupts his work because she's afraid of running over little crabs. As infuriating as this moment is for Lightning, Cruz might be onto something. At the end of the training day, when Lightning sees the sign for Thunder Hollow, look at the little sign on the bottom left. Thunderball Beach isn't just your normal beach, it also happens to be a crab sanctuary. I guess Cruz was right to want to tread lightly. Get it? Tread? Anyway. So on to Thunder Hollow, we go for more training by the way of an actual race on a small dirt track. Of course, to avoid public scrutiny, Lightning needs to compete in disguise. His tour truck, Mac, has the inspired idea of covering Lightning in mud. Well, he said he wanted to get his tires dirty. Mac disguises himself as well, draping a Jocko Flacco's party supply sign along his trailer. Did you know that Jocko Flacco was the name of a real NASCAR legend? He placed first in a race at Hickory Speedway in 1953. Oh, did I mention he was a monkey? Jocko was pro racer Tim Flock's unofficial co-driver. Flock's sponsor, Ted Chester, happened upon a capuchin monkey in a pet store while looking for a new family puppy. Seeing the monkey's name Jocko, he felt Jocko Flacco had a nice ring to it and devised the harebrained idea to stir up some publicity for Flock by putting the monkey in the car with him as he raced. In his checkered flag win at Hickory, Flacco even beat out the legendary Herb Thomas, the inspiration for Doc Hudson. But enough monkey business. Back to Thunder Hollow. There are loads of references and Easter eggs to be found here, especially with regard to its main attraction. As it turns out, Lightning's plan to race backfires when he realizes he snuck himself and Cruz into a demolition derby, and he's about to get a crash course in, well, crash courses from Miss Fritter, the dominating school bus and undefeated champion of the Crazy Eight. Miss Fritter is voiced by comedian and actor Leah Delaria, who is probably best known for her role, Big Boo, on the series Orange is the New Black, a fact the filmmakers have fun with. After the announcer gives her introduction, she sneaks up behind Lightning and Cruz, blowing flames and scaring them out of their tires. Her first line of dialogue? Boo. Her name, too, seems to be a sort of wordplay. Remember the PBS animated series adapted from the hit children's book series, The Magic School Bus? The name of the teacher who drove the school bus is Miss Frizzle. Miss Fritter takes great pride in her collection of license plates taken off her long line of competitors. But there's also a street sign on her left side that should look familiar, if you can catch it. The street sign reads W Cutting, and Toy Story fans might remember it on display above Andy's closet in Toy Story 3. West Cutting Boulevard is super significant, as it just so happens to be the street where Pixar Studios is located in Richmond, California. That's not the only Toy Story reference on the track. Maybe you missed it zinging by after the gates are locked on Cruz and McQueen, but don't worry, you get another chance later when the green and blue number 72 catches air. As he lands, he sends another object flying into the crowd. Fittingly enough, we see that it's a rocket, but not just any rocket, the Pizza Planet rocket from another unfortunate and famous competitor, the Pizza Planet delivery truck. Suffice to say, a lot of crashed cars are seeing stars in this competition. You are too if you look hard enough and fast enough. Check out the 3-car pileup at the mercy of Miss Fritter. The middle car, Bill, who greets Patty, has a very important star on his hood because it's on a ball. The ball from the Luxo Jr. animated short. If you're superhero quick, you might have seen the top of the car behind Bill right at the beginning of the crash. If not, you've got one last shot at catching a glimpse of it along the fence. It's a Captain America car with a star shield on top. In all this carnage, is it really any surprise the Demolition Derby is sponsored by a car life insurance company? But not just any company. Take a look around the track during the race, and you're liable to see a red and yellow sign for the company Insuracare, the very same company Bob Parr works for in The Incredibles. The real Incredibles, where Lightning and Cruz are concerned, are the legendary racers they meet in Thomasville. See, I told you we'd be back. After coming bumper to bumper with Doc's old coach, Smokey, voiced by Chris Cooper, Smokey takes them to the Cotton Pin Bar and Grill, where they get to meet the heroes of their youth. Junior Midnight Moon, voiced by racing great Junior Johnson, River Scott, voiced by Isaiah Whitlock Jr., and Luis Barnstormer Nash, performed by Margot Martindale. The classics reminisce about the old days with Doc, or HUD as they call him. HUD, of course, is short for Hudson, as in the Hudson Hornet, which is the type of car Doc was. But HUD holds extra weight for Paul Newman fans. One of the late actor's landmark roles was as the rancher's son with inner demons, Hud Bannon, in the 1963 movie HUD. Thomasville itself is a tribute to Doc's inspiration Herb Thomas, who drove the fabulous Hudson Hornet. Smokey, too, was named after Thomas's crew chief, Henry Smokey Unick. Even his garage is a tribute. See the sign outside Smokey's garage that reads "Best Dang Garage in Town"? Smokey Unick had the same sign, only his said "Best, other D-word garage in town." Yeah, you get it. Speaking of tributes, there's someone in the Cars series that doesn't get enough props. As much as Pixar loves John Ratzenberger, there's another reliable voice that deserves to be heard above the din, and that's the voice of Sally Carrera, actor Bonnie Hunt. Did you know that Bonnie's voice has been featured in 8 Pixar movies? She played Rosie in A Bug's Life, Miss Flint in Monsters, Inc., Sally in all 3 Cars films, Dolly in the Toy Story films, and teacher Karen Graves in Monsters University. Seems like Pixar has more than one good luck charm. Another neglected character this time around is Lightning's good buddy Mater. His screen time is cut down quite a bit in this installment, but like all good friends, he shows up when it really matters. If it wasn't for Mater, Lightning wouldn't have gone looking for Smokey in the first place. A particularly fun Disney reference can be siphoned from the scene just before Mater talks to McQueen over video chat. Be sure to listen to the song Mater sings to himself. Although he's putting his own words in it, the tune is to a classic song for Disney called "Put It in the Bag," the Humphrey Hop. In its most famous incarnation, the song is performed by a bunch of cartoon bears who pick up litter while bumping butts to the beat of the song. I hope you had fun finding cool secrets and details you might have missed in the Disney Pixar Cars universe. Make sure you subscribe to Movie Logic for more daily movie facts, trivia, and Easter eggs.